Jerusalem was loud that night. The city was overflowing with travelers, merchants, arguments, sheep and men, confidently giving wrong directions. Passover had turned every street into controlled chaos. Upstairs, in a borrowed room, 13 men gathered around a table. Bread was passed, wine was poured, candles flickered, sandals rested. The mood felt sacred, calm, almost steady, which usually means trouble is nearby. Jesus looked at his disciples and spoke with the kind of calm that made wise people nervous. He told them the night would shake them. He told them fear was coming. He told them they would scatter. Then he looked directly at Peter. Before the rooster crowed, Peter would deny even knowing him. Silence fell across the room. Everyone processed it differently. Some were confused. Some were worried. Peter was offended. He answered immediately, "Never." Then, with extra confidence, "Even if everyone else falls, I never will." There it was, confidence the size of Galilee, self-criticism the size of an olive. Peter loved Jesus. That part was real. But love and self-awareness are not twins. He believed loyalty automatically meant endurance. Because he felt brave in a safe room, he assumed he would stay brave in a dangerous street. That logic has ruined many people. It is the athlete who won everything and underestimates the drug test. It is the student who says, "I'll study tomorrow." It is the man who says, "Nothing can happen to me." It is every person who mistakes emotion for preparation. Peter was sincere. Peter was passionate. Peter was also very sure of Peter. Jesus warned him again. Peter doubled down again. At this point, he was arguing with the only man in the room who actually knew tomorrow. Bold strategy. The other disciples stayed quiet, likely using the ancient technique known as, "Thankfully, this is not about me." Dinner continued. Bread moved around the table. Cups were lifted. But something more important had already entered the room. The problem was not fear. The problem was not soldiers. The problem was not the courtyard. The problem was born in the words, "I never." That was the first crack. Small enough to ignore, serious enough to matter. Most collapses begin like that, not with noise, not with scandal, not with public failure. With private certainty, no one questions. The first crack opened when nobody turned on the camera. Peter probably felt stronger than ever, which is often how people feel minutes before reality arrives. Soon they would leave the table. Soon they would walk into the cold night. Soon there would be olive trees, torchlight, footsteps, and pressure. Soon speeches would become harder to use. Peter rose and followed Jesus into the dark, carrying all the confidence in the room, and almost none of the caution. Ahead of them, a garden waited, and in that garden, routine was about to become a stress test. The garden looked like a prayer meeting. It became a stress test. Gethsemane was quiet, cool, and still. Olive trees stretched across the dark hillside. The city noise stayed far behind them. Moonlight covered the ground in silver. It looked peaceful, which is exactly why danger hides there so well. Jesus stopped and turned to the disciples. No speech, no battle plan, no dramatic assignment. Just one request. Stay here. Watch with me. Simple. And simple tasks are often where people fail fastest because they do not look important. Peter had promised everything at the table: loyalty, courage, unshakable devotion. Now the first test arrived dressed like routine. No soldiers, no crowd, no threats, just 1 hour of attention. Jesus walked deeper into the garden to pray. The disciples settled in. Peter likely meant to stay awake. He probably sat upright, maybe nodded seriously, maybe thought, easy. Then reality entered through the eyelids. The weight of the eyelids was greater than the weight of the calling. Slow breathing, warm night air, a quiet place, a tired body, and confidence is useless against biology when discipline never trained. Peter drifted asleep. The man ready to die in public could not stay awake in private. Jesus returned. He found them sleeping, especially Peter, the same Peter who had confidently corrected prophecy earlier that night. Jesus woke him. Could you not watch 1 hour? A painful question because it required no complicated answer. Peter had enough energy to make promises, not enough to keep one. Apostle in snooze mode, clock in war mode. Jesus went back to pray. Peter went back to sleep. Round 2. Again, Jesus returned. Again sleeping. Round 3. By now the garden had become a silent scoreboard. Prayer steady, disciples horizontal. This was not lack of love, it was lack of emotional battery. Peter cared deeply, but caring deeply and functioning well under pressure are separate skills. Many people learn that late. He wanted courage for the crisis, but crisis usually exposes what routine has been practicing. He wanted strength when torches arrived. He could not defeat sleep when nothing was happening. That matters, because nobody suddenly becomes disciplined in the emergency. They reveal the habits they brought into it. Jesus rose from prayer. The tone changed instantly. No more warnings, no more retries, no more chances to pretend rest was strategy. Then came movement in the distance. Lights between the trees, torch flames bouncing in the dark, metal striking metal, voices growing louder. The soldiers were coming. Peter stood up quickly, like a man hoping speed could replace preparation. But the deeper problem had already happened. When the soldiers arrive, resistance is already on airplane mode, and with no inner readiness left to draw from, Peter reached for the loudest tool he had, a sword. They came with torches. Soldiers moved through the trees. Metal clinked in the dark. Shadows jumped across the garden walls. Judas walked in front, calm on the outside, collapsing somewhere else. Then came the greeting. A kiss. The signal was given. The disciples froze. Peter did not. Pressure had arrived, and Peter had a lifelong habit of meeting pressure before thinking. He cut first, thought later. Very Peter. Someone shouted for the sword to be put away. Peter cut off an ear. In one movement he turned a sacred moment into an emergency. Jesus was surrendering. Peter was improvising. The disciple tried to protect the Messiah who asked for no bodyguard. Bold strategy. Wrong kingdom, wrong timing, wrong tool. It was the ancient version of hitting reply all in caps before breathing. The steel shone. Real trust left the scene, because this was not courage. It was panic holding metal. Peter had missed the quiet test in the garden. Now he tried to pass the loud test with violence. That happens often. People ignore discipline in private, then perform chaos in public. They skip prayer, then reach for props. Jesus stopped him immediately. Put the sword away. Short sentence. Heavy meaning. Peter wanted to win the moment. Jesus was already handling the night. Peter wanted action. Jesus wanted trust. Peter trusted movement. Jesus trusted purpose. So while Peter was swinging at servants, Jesus was surrendering on schedule. Different levels of awareness. Then Jesus healed the damage. Of course, Peter created the wound. Jesus repaired the wound. Also very Peter. The soldiers still arrested Jesus. Nothing changed. Rome was not defeated. The crowd was not scattered. The plan was not delayed. The sword achieved exactly one thing. It exposed Peter. He still believed strength had to look loud. He still believed force could do what faith had not. He still believed hands were more reliable than surrender. The blade came down. The noise ended. And soon Peter would face a much smaller challenge. No sword needed. No soldiers required, no torches necessary, just questions, just faces, just a fire. And there, with no weapon left to swing, something else would fail. The blade came down. His voice was about to disappear. The courtyard was warm. That was ironic. A fire burned in the center. People gathered around it, talking quietly, watching the trial unfold in the distance. Faces flickered in orange light. Night air stayed cold. The fire was high. Peter's courage was not. He had followed from a distance, which usually means someone wants connection without consequences. Close enough to watch, far enough to deny involvement. Reasonable plan. Temporary plan. Peter stood near the flames trying to look normal, a difficult task for a man who had recently attacked someone with a sword. Then came the first question. You were with him, weren't you? Not an arrest, not a threat, not torture, just a sentence. Peter answered fast. No. Small word, large crack. Then another voice. You are one of them. Again, no chains, no weapons drawn, no crowd rushing him, just attention. Peter answered louder. No. The night kept moving. The fire kept burning. The pressure kept rising. Then came the third time. Someone recognized him again. Maybe the accent, maybe the face, maybe the panic. And for the third time, Peter denied it. No. 3 light questions. 3 heavy failures. This was the man who had promised prison, promised death, promised loyalty above all others. Now he could not survive conversation. It was the influencer who preaches courage, then deletes the post at the first criticism. The thermostat of the night. Fire high. The thermostat of courage, 0 degrees C. What broke Peter was not fear alone. Fear visits everyone. The deeper problem was that empty pride had left him with no foundation when pressure arrived. He had spent confidence early. Nothing remained when truth was requested. Then it happened. A rooster crowed, sharp, ordinary, unplanned, and louder than the whole courtyard. Peter froze, because the sound carried memory with it, the warning at the table, the certainty in his own voice, the promise, never me. Now the night answered back. Across the courtyard, Jesus turned and looked at Peter. No speech, no public humiliation, no dramatic lecture, just a look. And somehow that was heavier than chains. Peter finally saw the full path of the night. Big promises, sleeping in the garden, swinging the sword, 3 denials, now the rooster. The collapse had not started at the fire only revealed it. Peter stepped back from the courtyard, from the warmth, from the noise, from the version of himself he had trusted hours earlier. The rooster crowed, but memory screamed louder. Peter did not fall at, "I don't know him." He fell at, "I never will." That was the real beginning. The courtyard only made it visible. Hours earlier, Peter had been full of certainty, confidence inflated, warnings dismissed. He believed volume was strength and sincerity was enough. Then came the garden. Vigil failed. While Jesus carried the weight of the night, Peter lost a fight with sleep. Then came the sword. Steel instead of trust, noise instead of surrender. He reached for force when faith felt slower. Then came the fire. 3 small questions, 3 fast denials. And finally the rooster. Not a random sound, a receipt. The whole night could be traced in order. Inflated confidence, failed vigilance, out-of-script sword swing, serial denials, rooster at dawn, clean sequence, messy outcome. Sometimes the greatest failure is proving in public that you were never what you claimed out loud. Peter had spoken like a fortress. He folded like a tent. He moved fast for the cause, then tripped over his own mouth. That happens more than people admit. Some speak loudly, listen poorly, and blame timing later. Some mistake bold words for inner strength. Some announce tomorrow's courage while failing today's discipline. Peter became the warning in real time. The collapse was personal before it was public. Private cracks, public exposure. That order rarely changes. People usually break inside first. The outside world just reveals the damage on schedule. Yet the strange thing about Peter's night was this. Failure exposed him, but it did not finish him. The same man who denied loudly would one day speak boldly for the right reasons. The same man who crumbled under questions would later stand firm under pressure. The same man who trusted himself too much would eventually trust grace more. But that healing belongs to another chapter. For now, the lesson stayed in the dark courtyard air. Do not fear only the public fall. Fear the private illusion that says it cannot happen to you. Watch the small cracks. Respect ordinary tests. Do not confuse passion with preparation, and never assume loud promises can carry quiet weakness. Peter broke first on the inside. The fire only showed the fractures. Somewhere behind him, dawn kept rising. And for the first time that night, Peter understood himself clearly. Painful clarity, useful clarity, the kind that pride never gives. The rooster had already finished speaking, but the echo would stay with him much longer.